and welcome back to We Love This Book. This is our March favourites video, so I'm going to talk through some of the books that are coming out in the upcoming month that I'm excited about. First of all, I just wanted to mention two picture books. The first one is called Hoot Owl, and it's by Sean Taylor and it's illustrated by Jullien. And this is published by Walker Books, and this is just this really lovely, bright, colourful picture book. The second picture book that I wanted to mention is Art and Max by David Wiesner, which is coming out in March. I believe this is actually a reissue of a book that actually has been out for a while, but this is a new paperback version of it. And this is just a beautiful picture book about two lizards who are painting. So those are two picture books that are coming out in March that I think look particularly lovely. Let's start with the non-fiction book, which is So You've Been Publicly Shamed by Jon Ronson, which is being published by Picador. Jon Ronson wrote The Psychopath Test, and this is his new book, and this is about the phenomenon of online shaming and publicly humiliate people. I believe he spent 3 years researching this, and he talked to loads of people who, to varying degrees, had done something wrong and had been kind of destroyed on social media. It's completely sobering and a little bit terrifying, and will make you rethink the way that you use social media, both in what you put out there, but also the way that you react to other people. It's very funny at times. Jon Ronson's writing is completely engaging. It's really fun to read, and you'll whip through it as well. It's a very, very quick read. But I expect that lots of people will be talking about this on social media, fittingly. I have got 6 novels. I'm going to start with The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro. So this is a very, very highly anticipated one. This is a proof, so the hardbacks are lovely. This is Ishiguro's first novel in 10 years, and he's one of my absolute all-time favourite authors, and I was really, really excited and really nervous to read this one. It's about an elderly couple, Axel and Beatrice, in sort of post-King Arthur Britain, but also in a sort of slightly tweaked version of it. So there's pixies that wreak havoc, and there's a dragon that is causing problems. This kind of looks more at kind of when a nation decides to forget its history or rewrite its history, rather than as much the kind of individual histories that perhaps some of his earlier books focused on. I desperately want to reread this. I have been told several times that you need to reread it to really appreciate it. Having said that, I kind of believe that there should be enough of a satisfying initial surface reading that you don't have to read it twice to enjoy it. And for that reason, I didn't perhaps love it as much as I've loved some of his other books, but I really, really enjoyed it. I was massively impressed with it. There's lots to like about it. It's already been splitting opinion. I've read reviews that have loved it, I've read reviews that have really hated it, and it's one that people will be talking about. Next is this one with its beautiful, beautiful cover. So this is Hausfrau by Jill Alexander Essbaum, and this is being published by Mantle, which is part of Pam Macmillan. This book is about a woman called Anna who lives with her husband in Zurich and their 2 sons. Anna's American, so she's an expat, and she, to all intents and purposes, seems to have a very comfortable, affluent life, but underneath that veneer of perfection, she is completely lost. And she uses short-lived, very intense sexual affairs to try and feel something. Inevitably, this does not work out smoothly and leads to all sorts of kind of heartache and tragedy. It's completely engrossing and engaging, and you will not be able to stop thinking about it. When you're not reading it, you will want to be back in that voice, even though it's not a very pleasant voice. It's also got this beautiful cover. It's embroidery, and I believe that the publishers actually had the cover really made in embroidery, which they then used for this cover, so it's a beautiful, beautiful cover. Okay, next is The Shore by Sara Taylor. When I was sent this, the publisher compared it to David Mitchell, and I'm always wary of books that are compared to these kind of big names because you feel like it's only going to be disappointing. But I read this and I can very much see why they're comparing it to David Mitchell. The Shore is set on a collection of islands off the coast of Virginia in America. These 3 quite isolated islands, and this book is set across 3 generations of 2 families who live on this really isolated community. And it's very Mitchell-esque in that sense that it's kind of lots of little stories about people that are interconnected. It spans 1885, and then the last section is in 2143 as well. So it even kind of touches on dystopian elements. So this is highly recommended, and one that I wouldn't be surprised to see on award shortlists. Next we have A Place Called Winter by Patrick Gale. This is a beautiful, moving, historical drama about a man who leaves England after a family drama, I would say, don't want to do any spoilers. He buys a homestead on a remote Canadian sort of prairie. It's about his life there and who he is and the people that he meets. I'm finding it really hard to say anything about it without giving away any of the plot, and it's one that's just, it's a real delight to discover it as it happens. I think it would do really well. Okay, the penultimate one I'm going to go for is Weightless by Sara Bannan, which is published by Bloomsbury. This one is set in an American high school, and it's told in a collective voice from a group of high school girls, and Bannan uses this collective voice so well, so you feel like you're part of this group. There's a new girl called Carolyn who starts at their school, and she's beautiful and she's rich and she's like sort of self-possessed. She has a very sort of sparse social media presence, and everyone's fascinated by her when she arrives. But then the kind of cool kids kind of turn on her, they're threatened by her. We hear in hindsight what happened to her and why it happened, and the way that sort of social media is used to kind of destroy this girl. And the last book I'm going to mention is The Mirror World of Melody Black by Gavin Extence. Gavin is the author of The Universe vs. Lex Woods, which was super popular when it came out a few years ago, and this is his second book. This book is the story of Abby, who is a freelance journalist who lives with her boyfriend in a very small flat, and the book opens when she goes across the hall to borrow something from her neighbour, and she finds that he's dead in his flat, and that kind of kicks off the sort of chain of events of the book. Abby has sort of mental health issues, which is a key sort of theme of the book, and it's something that Extence explores in a really in-depth but sensitive way. It gave me a real insight into the way that Abby sort of perceives the world. Again, it's another one that's quite difficult to talk about without giving away anything about the plot, which is just such fun to uncover for yourself, and I don't want to deprive you of that by describing what's happening in it. But he's such a great writer, and I think that is really exciting seeing what he does. So one that I very much recommend. So these are my favourites. If I had to pick out my favourite for this month, I would probably go with The Shore by Sara Taylor. I was just really impressed by this as a debut. It's a really distinct original voice. So I hope you've enjoyed that. We'd love to know what you've been reading in February, what you're planning to read in March. We'd also like to know what you want from these favourite videos. Let us know what you want and what you think. You'll also notice that We Love This Book website has had a refresh. We have redesigned our whole site, and we hope that you like it. We're really happy with it, and we'd love to know what you think of it. We'd like to know what sort of features you'd like to see on the new site, so please do have a look round and let us know what you think.